Good morning, bom dia, and excellent. Well, it's my pleasure, our pleasure, to have Murillo de Aragão, an old friend of the chamber, also in Arko Advice, is now a member of the chamber. So
Thank you very, very much. It's been 30 years playing in Brazil, here in New York. The fact is, for those who invest in Brazil or follow Brazil, Brazil is much better than it appears. Brazil, 30 years ago, has no money, weak institutions, doubts about reforms, about foreign capital, about market, about which way we will follow in ideological terms. We didn't solve all of these quests in these last 30 years, but we did a lot of good things. And the proof of this is the fact that today we have a sound financial system, high quality financial system, backed with almost $20 billion in reserves, quite a good set of rules. We have also a growing culture of compliance, which is driving the relationship between private sector and public sector in Brazil. By far, the institutional corruption in Brazil reduced dramatically. You have to look and to see that many fundamentals of Brazil are really, really positive. And these fundamentals will prevail regardless who will be the next president of Brazil. So don't worry if it's Lula, Bolsonaro, or Moro, even Boulos. Boulos are not going to be candidates, but Brazil has a set of institutions that will control any radical move for the right or for the left. And that's the beauty of Brazil. Also, what happened between 2002 and 2022 is the fact that the hyper-presidentialism that we had in Brazil lost energy, lost power. The president cannot run the country alone anymore. He is obliged by a set of rules. The Congress is highly powerful today in regards to the budget. And this was used to pork barrel support for the government in the past. So in the past, the government holds the execution of the budget, aiming to have support from the Congress. Now they cannot do that because the implementation of the budget is mandatory, like here in the United States. Well, with this in mind, so the president needs to create majorities around reasons, projects, ideas, not only because they are buying the majority in the Congress. The other aspect of Brazil since 2005 is the presence and strength of the legal system. We have in Brazil, like in other countries, a phenomenon named judicialization, which is the interference of the justice in political decisions. This in Brazil has two ways. One is the opposition going to the courts, claiming against something approved at the Congress. So every important decision of Brazil is being challenged at the Supreme Court. It's bad? Yes, it is, but it's good on the other hand, because if you have this kind of tricameral system, you are ensuring that the legislation will be really implemented. For example, like the autonomy of the central bank. The autonomy of the central bank was approved in both houses, sanctioned into law by the president, and then challenged at the court. The court said, no, it's constitutional. So we have this judicialization provoked by the parties, but also we have some kind of activism from the legal system provoking decisions that can interfere in the public administration. Well, now we are entering in a preheated season between May and July is when we're going to see the parties creating their alliances in the states, and also we will see the effect of the party advertising in the television, which is used to boost the image of some candidates, presidential candidates. So it's a kind of pre-season period. I do not see major moves in the polls in this period. I believe that the movements more significant will happen after May, June, July, because then Brazil will be more aware of the election, and other questions such as the Auxílio Brasil, this Brazil grant stuff, and other measures made by the government to boost economy and inflation-related issues could cause a positive effect in Bolsonaro's popularity. So the roadmap is to see these next 3 months will be a period where the third way will try to build an alternative. They will give a chance to João Dória to place his position. It's important, in my opinion, is that today we have space for a third way, because there are some 20% of the population that do not want to vote in Lula or Bolsonaro, and some 10-12% are voting other candidates. But so far, we don't have the trigger to unify these people against. And the trigger, in my opinion, will be the attention over the election, which is not happening now. So people are thinking about life, election is too far. So I believe that what we have to see is the roadmap is the next 3 months, pre-season period, advertising, party advertising that could boost some candidates, and then by July we will see the final arrangements in relation to the conventions, and then we are going to see noise around PSDB, if Dória will be or not a candidate, if the other parties from the center will try to make a coalition to support someone else like Eduardo Leite or Simone Tebet. So we're going to see some movements in this period which will be critical around July. And then we have the conventions. And then August, September will be the election. So our legislation is very rigid, but there's a problem of implementation. Some areas we implement in a good manner, in others we do not implement in a good manner. In Pará, Amazonas, there's a problem of culture, there's a problem also of corruption, local authorities, the illegal logging, logging. So all of this is complex in a huge country like Brazil. I believe that we need to go to a mature view of environment in Brazil. We have to monetize the environment in Brazil. For example, Brazil is the country #1 in recycling aluminum cans, more than the United States. Why? Because it's expensive. So people collect and sell the cans. Tires, Brazil is reaching incredible amount of recycling tires in Brazil. You do not see any more tires in the street. Like 10 years ago, it was very common to see the roads, tires abandoned in the roads. So we have to reach a new way to do environmental policies in Brazil. Unfortunately, I do not see any of these politicians with a modern view of environment. I am totally engaged in what Nicholas Stern wrote about economics and environment many years ago. And I think Brazil is the ideal place to transform protecting the environment in a very good business. We are the place to do that. Well, today there's a struggle behind the scenes between the left and the center to left groups of PT. This more leftist group are reacting to have Geraldo Alckmin as the vice candidate with the ticket. And what we will see is a tension between these two groups ahead. Lula is a pragmatic guy. He knows that he was successful when he followed the rules, Meirelles, Palocci. Probably he will follow the same recipe. But I believe that the leftist side will be more aggressive, trying to gain more space in the new administration. But then there's other factor. The President Lula, if it's him to be the president, will be completely different from 2002 when he was elected. Because the president has not anymore the amount of power that they had in the past. For example, they had not the freedom to issue fast track as it was in the past. The medidas provisórias, limited today. Second, they do not control anymore the budget, the implementation of the budget. And more than that, almost 1/3 of the discretionary budget from the president was took by the Congress, the RP9, the secret budget, nicknamed the secret budget. The legal system also is impairing the government in certain aspects. For example, he tried to appoint the director of the Brazilian FBI, and then the court said, no, you can't, because this guy is friend of your son. So this kind of interferences from one branch to another is limiting the power of the president. And what you see from the Congress is a Congress that is centered to right. The mirror of the future Congress probably is the municipal election that we had 2 years ago. And this election was a center to right election. So the next Congress will be a center to right Congress. So Lula will have to compose with conservative forces to govern. Otherwise, he will be without power. I think we will have to change the spending cap. We have to change. This is my opinion, not if it will happen or not, okay? Because we cannot have a rule that could not have exceptions. You know, we have the exceptions with the war, exceptions with the pandemic, and then we have to follow the rule, but the country is being destroyed. So how it works, you see? So, and here in the United States, you don't care about the spending cap. You just postponed the application of the spending cap 1 year or 2 years ahead. So why we poor bastards of Brazil, we have to be more realistas than the king, more royal than the king.
We don't have the dollar.
Credibility.
We don't have the dollar.
No, okay, but anyway, that's the point. We have to take care of our country, you know. So what I believe is you have to have transparency. And in 30 years talking with the market accepts everything with transparency. So if you play, the rule is we have the spending cap with these 3 or 4 or 5 or 20 exceptions. Okay, we will. If we have a situation of crisis in the fuel industry, blah, 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 all right, you can spend, or pandemic, or earthquake, or tsunami, or a World Cup. You have to have the rules. But The way that we did, it was a tight shirt, in my opinion. We have to adjust. I believe they will adjust in a fair manner. All the names were tested, and no one reached in a consistent manner 12%, 30%. Moro was the only one that reached that figure for a certain period of time. On the paper, I believe late, because he's a new guy, young, post-Lava Jato stuff, so he can be the new thing, you see. And due to the fact that this election is a rejection election, certain moment people say, well, I don't want Lula, I don't want Bolsonaro, these two confrontational guys, let's give a chance to this guy, new one, governor. So Leite, in my opinion, is the one with the best set of features to be a candidate. Hardly one president will be elected with full majority in the Congress because the design of our political system. It's a fragmented political system, divided in 5, 6 big parties. So no one will be elected having a full majority. Everyone to be the president will be necessary. We need to go to the Congress and do a coalition. A coalition of government, or a coalition for the administration, or a coalition for agendas. Well, my agenda is that. You will support? Oh, no, not like that, but certainly partially I will support, but I want this in exchange. So this will be the model that we will see in Brazil ahead. Negotiation with the Congress. The Congress will be king. Actually, the most important person in Brazil after, besides the president, is the Speaker of the House. Because he's the builder of majorities. He built majorities. So, and that's the issue in Brazil. Regardless who will be the president, the debate will be concentrated around who will run the Congress. And our progresses were unable to create the figures that we need to be considered a better place. I don't know if we will progress on a way that in 20 years Brazil could be completely different from today. I don't think so. I think Brazil is a country of incremental gains, segmented gains. From certain areas you will be a lot of profit, as there are people profiting from Brazil. The agribusiness, for example, people are enjoying a lot of results, good results with the agribusiness in Brazil. The financial market also. I believe the housing industry is something that will grow in Brazil. Because actually, we last too long to solve two big problems of Brazil. One was inflation. That was in '94. And now the interest rates. Even having these interest rates now, but if you discount the inflation, the interest rates are not so high. For Brazilian standards, 4%. So money is still cheap in Brazil, considering the pattern of Brazil. So I believe this will make the great revolution in Brazil, the offer of credit. So Brazil will be different from now on because the offer of credit. Because you will be offering credit for mortgage, for business, and this is creating a new culture. We have 400 fintechs. We have millions of Brazilians coming to the financial market, to the stock exchange market. We are creating the culture of people investing in apps. So I think this is the silent revolution that we will have, and this will make a difference for the next 20 years. But probably will be not in the sense that all the grades of Brazil will be A. Brazil will be not the perfect place to be. Because we have such difficulties. It's a huge country. It's like an European community, 27 states, different culture. In the Amazon, to kill a parrot is okay, but in Rio Grande do Sul, to kill a parrot is not okay. So I am saying that there are cultural gaps, educational gaps, and I do not see 20 years enough to close all of these gaps. But what I see is a modern, a force of modernity coming from the financial system. When I say financial system, it is a broad vision of financial system, because the culture of Brazilians to invest, the cultures of Brazilians to have apps, the fintechs, the money cheaper than it was in the past, people going to the market, debating the market, XP, TC, BTG Digital, all this culture, I think, is transforming. And also, because if you look Brazil, Brazil is a completely globalized country in the sense that we are top 5 in Facebook, top 5 in WhatsApp, top 5 in Twitter, top 5 in TikTok, top 5 in all of this. So we are connected. So we are around watching what's going on in the world. So I think this will be the driving forces for Brazil. Agribusiness, housing, financial system. We will not privatize Petrobras, and I doubt Bolsonaro will be able to privatize Petrobras. Eletrobras, something depends on the stage of the process. Depending on the stage, Lula can impede the conclusion of the process. Just as a matter of, to show we are different.
Would you say he would be more interventionist or more laissez-faire than with the economic team? I mean, it sounds like he would be more interventionist, not...
He will be more interventionist,
Right.
as he was in the past.
Right.
But in a selective manner. We are not going to be interventionist. He will be not like Dilma.
Okay.
He will be less interventionist as Dilma. Because he knows that the price of the intervention would cost him too much. He knows that, and he will. And actually, the Congress, on the other hand, will not be supporting 100% of his policies. So the risk of being defeated at the Congress, as Bolsonaro is the president with the highest rate of rejection of vetoes, and even having the support of the Congress. So showing that the Congress has their own autonomy to decide. So, as I said, the liberty, the freedom of the new president to implement policies are limited today. And if he brings something very funny in terms of changing, the reaction could be strong, and he will not have the majority to approve. So he has to select, to choose very well which battles he wants to be engaged. In general terms, the media in Brazil is profoundly anti-establishment. And this creates a problem because not necessarily everything from the establishment is bad. And if you are anti-establishment 100% of the time, you miss what's going on in the country. And that's the major point. So I see this as a problem from the Brazilian press, and it is a problem from the foreign press in Brazil. Especially the foreign press likes to live in Rio de Janeiro. They don't want to go to Brasilia because it's boring. So it's like, covering the war from Paris, not from Ukraine. Okay, horrible thing, horrible stuff. But and that's the great problem for those who invest in Brazil, because you need to have your proper sources of information, your own sources of information, especially when you go to specific segments. Because in general terms, if you look every day, what is the headline? Nothing important to investment in Brazil. We don't have even a good business news like Wall Street Journal or Financial Times.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much, Murillo. We also have the summit, the Brazil Summit on the 19th. We've confirmed Gustavo Montezano, the president of BNDES, Carlos da Costa, who has a new position in Brasilia, the economy ministry created an representative in Brasilia, which is separate. They're housed in the embassy, but it's a separate. In Washington. But it's going to be remote. The summit's going to be remote this year. Just Easter and the IMF World Bank just made it impossible to do it. And we'll have 2 panels as usual, and there's a couple other people we have to confirm, so that should be very good. In the meantime, thank you again. Stay healthy, and we'll do more of these, hopefully, in-person stuff.
And so, if I talk,
Yes, thank you.